Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are finally back from Brazil. We have some great footage from that esports event coming soon. But while we were away, well, some of the biggest drama in the streaming / real job space happened with Hasan over this past weekend, with everyone chiming in on whether or not streaming is harder than your real job that you work. I saw a lot of takes out there, and as per usual, I'm going to ask you guys what do you think about this. But for the full context, let's first listen to Hasan on stream describing what he went on to say was his social battery, talking about how streaming drains his social battery more than any real job that he worked ever did.
I am a fun-loving person, okay? I promise. But the issue is after 9 hours and 30 minutes of streaming, like high intensity, I am not a fun-loving person. At that point, I'm just like, I'm so tired. Like the life has been stripped from me. Now you know how it is with real jobs feel. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I used to have a real fucking job and I was infinitely more social, because this is the one area where I absolutely will disagree with you on. Yes, a real job can be gruesome. A real job can make you very tired, but a real job doesn't suck the soul out of you. You know what I mean? In the same way that 9 hours of streaming absolutely will. Like, that's the difference. Like, no. Social battery wise, unless you're in retail, it's very different. You're out of touch. I'm gonna die, dude. There's motherfuckers who are accountants in here and they're misunderstanding what I'm saying. A real job does not expend your social battery in the same fucking way as someone who did a sales job, a real job. Okay, I'm telling you, as someone who did both, 9 hours of constant performance and people pleasing taps you out from social scenarios. After 9 hours of that, I could probably do fucking physical labor. It would not bother me, but I can't fucking do more social shit. That's my point.
And I think for me, the part where he got himself in trouble, well, first off, he's Hasan. He's often in controversy, often clipped in front of millions of people out there. And once these things go mainstream, I'm going to be honest, not a lot of people are going to feel bad for someone like Hasan, which makes me feel bad for all of the other streamers, because when these kind of topics go viral, it's a bad look for all the streamers out there who are really grinding and also not making a lot of money. That's not me trying to chip away at Hasan, but when these things go viral, often the mainstream media portrays streamers as people who don't work at all, which I do disagree with. I think where Hasan gets himself in trouble, though, is where he goes on to say that no real job sucks the soul out of you like streaming does, which obviously people who work real jobs are probably going to take that the wrong way, because I'm sure a lot of people out there have worked a job where you felt once you left that day that the soul was sucked out of you. Like, nobody likes a 9 to 5. Most people out there don't like to work full-time jobs, and a lot of those full-time jobs will suck. Like, let's be honest about it, right? Not just streaming, but any job out there. So when you say streaming will suck the soul out of you more than any real job, yeah, people are probably going to get offended.
There are obviously real jobs out there that are good comparisons. Service sector, people-pleasing jobs would be very similar. Those are like, I think, customer service type shit. But like if you're an accountant, or if you're even like in sales, my interactions with clients was limited, way more limited than like constantly having to do this for 9 hours with like a back and forth interaction for 9 hours. That's what like sucks your social battery, and you just tap out after it. Yeah, think about it this way. Like, you give presentations for your job, right? Imagine giving a presentation for 9 hours straight. It's like, after a while, you would be like, I don't want to talk ever again. I call it like the dead zone. When I'm done streaming, I usually have like at least a refractory period of an hour where I just sit there and silently stare at my phone. The other thing, what do you call it? Like, the other thing is, like, the one issue that I've brought up about Twitch streaming that's like very different than a real job, is that, like I said, you're always on. You have to always be on. There are so many private moments that you have to yourself in a real job, in a big boy job, right? Like, there are moments that you don't have to be on. When you're on camera, you have to be on all the time. That definitely Like even if you're doing customer service, there's like in between calls, you know, you can take your time, shit like that. When you're teaching, you have breaks in between classes. That's the only that I would say is someone who's done like a real world job, a big boy job, and a fake job like this. That I think is like one of the biggest differences, and it just cooks you a little bit for sure. Bro, you're generalizing too much about jobs you've never done. Do you know how socially draining it is to work like most jobs? I'm just saying we can relate to your feeling a lot more than you seem to think. Lots of jobs are socially draining. Many of us are feeling all too well. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. Yeah, dude, I'm saying Twitch streaming is actually way harder than any of your jobs. That's what I meant. I'm glad you can. I'm glad. And I'm saying that your job is like not real. I did sales, dumbass. I know what it's like. I had to fucking sit there. I know it's awful. You have to literally, I'm telling you, yeah, it was draining my social battery nowhere near to the same degree as Twitch streaming. That's my point.
But I will say, if you watch the 4 to 5 minutes, he does try to focus on the social battery aspect, which I think I can't understand. You know, you're talking for 9 hours straight, and he tries to compare that to some other real jobs, like customer service, where if you're talking 9 hours a day, 8 hours a day, every day of the week, yeah, obviously you're not going to have much of a social battery after you work. That's where he tries to focus. That is, of course, not where the internet took this, and he did have some other words in there too, and this left into a place where I didn't even think this was like that big of a deal. We have seen streamers for the last many a years talk about how streaming is a very mentally taxing, mentally exhausting job, but it's usually inside their niche communities where their audience can disagree or agree with them. But when someone like Hasan, who again often finds himself in these controversies, I don't really want to dive into the what's and whys of that, but when he goes viral, you just see a whole bunch of other polar takes out there, some of which I don't really agree with, because at the end of the day, can leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about this? When I first saw this debate, I was like, why are we all comparing our jobs? All of our jobs are so very different, and I'm sure a lot of the jobs that all of us work are hard in their own individual ways. I don't know why we're trying to compare streaming to being a nurse, to being a garbage man, to being an accountant. Like, everyone works hard jobs out there, and at the end of the day, it just sucks that everyone thinks streaming is also easy. That's the part that I don't like. I know a lot of streamers out there who are not making a lot of money, who are working absurd amounts of hours and also a full-time job, and even they will say, hey, streaming's still freaking hard, you know? And I feel like over the course of this weekend, people didn't have any respect for streamers just because of what Hasan said, even though there's a middle line here. As you had a lot of the general public having tweets like this, when I have to stream for 9 hours and react to videos in front of 20,000 people instead of working a real job. Others saying, don't ever let someone insult you by saying your 9 to 5 job is easier than streaming. Laugh at them knowing they only think that because they're faking their personality all day on stream and it's exhausting them. Cooper, it's a troll, by the way, guys. If you're CS fans, you know Cooper is a troll. Others saying being poor when you're young and starting out has its advantages, makes you humble and grateful. This kid has no clue, in reference to Hasan and other ones out there. I will also share with you guys some of the takes out there from streamers that I also agreed with, because I would love to have some middle ground here. Like, I think the internet took it one way and kind of stretched it really far. And maybe I'm wild for saying this. I didn't really think this was that crazy. I think it got all the crazier because Hasan said it, even though we covered this a few weeks ago. A Fortnite streamer, Lacey, was talking about this at length. And this didn't go viral because, you know, he had a nice back and forth with his community. When it goes mainstream, you just see a whole different side of things. So let me share with you guys some Twitch streamers out there and some of their remarks I also agree with on the other side, that streaming is difficult and not everyone's making millions of dollars doing it. At Bronze Girl saying, can't really have a productive conversation on here regarding whether or not streaming is a hard job when everyone assumes we all make $10,000 a month. I, for example, don't. So I still do a lot of editing, writing, recording, photoshopping, etc. myself. And the hourly rate breakdown is less than you'd think. I also worked real jobs for years before and while streaming, but the discussion on this website is cursed because a lot of people just hate streamers and think a lot of them do react content and make thousands of dollars a day. The reason I don't complain about it so much is because I chose this life for myself and the world does not owe me anything. I don't feel entitled to a career in entertainment, but writing and performing is what I enjoy and I'm going to continue to work towards it. And I thought that was really well put, because a lot of people forget that like Hasan is the top 0.0001% of streamers making millions of dollars and oftentimes just chatting and doing react content as he does, which is still mentally draining in its own way. He does a lot of hours, right? Almost 250 hours a month. That's a lot. But there's a lot of people besides Hasan out there that I have spoken to, that I know, that I watch, that have worked full-time jobs while streaming part-time, eventually going full-time in streaming, and put countless hours into this that goes beyond just the streaming part, right? Then there's the content part. Then there's potential being employed, employing others. There's thumbnails. There's creative work on the side. There's editing, all of that stuff, which I feel like kind of gets forgotten when you focus on Hasan. There are hundreds, if not thousands of streamers out there who are not making that good of a living, which that's why I like seeing these comments instead. As Lucci says, is streaming easy? Yeah, it's not really that difficult to hit the go live button and do my job. Is learning how to keep an audience engaged easy? Is being a content creator easy? Is creating a brand easy? Is becoming a proficient storyteller and editor easy? No. Streaming is literally the easiest part of my job. All the back end stuff is the real grind. However, the amount of sacrifices it takes to even become a successful streamer in the first place is something most people will never put themselves through. My job is mentally exhausting, but I also do everything, not just stream. I worked in the trades for 10 plus years before this. That was physically exhausting, but I clocked out and forgot about work completely until my next shift. A lot of content creation feels 24/7, especially when it's your business. And I think that's what I would like to focus on the other side of things. Like, streaming certainly can be easy for some, and it looks easy when you think they're all making millions of dollars. But the focus on like the mentally exhausting part, you have people and streamers who have worked both sides of the industry. And even when it comes down to it, there's still going to be jobs that are harder than this. No one is trying to compare streaming to being a nurse or a paramedic. If you do that, you're out of your mind. There are always going to be jobs that are harder than streaming, just like there's always going to be harder jobs than what a lot of us are. There's always going to be a harder job, right? Like, and I don't think many streamers were trying to directly compare themselves like they have the hardest job in the world. They're just trying to point out that it can be mentally exhausting. But again, when you're on the internet and you're trying to compare your jobs, someone's always going to be rubbed the wrong way, and maybe rightfully so. This conversation just never ends. And I think Caroline, for the last one I'll share with you guys, put it pretty well. I've worked over 20 plus different jobs, including a call center, since I keep seeing that one mentioned. Streaming has been the most mentally taxing for a number of reasons, doxing, swatting, death threats, example, but I am grateful every day that this is my career now. Both of those things can be true. It's mentally tiring, but also an amazing and privileged job to have. It's what a lot of streamers have expressed. No one is talking in absolutes. The discourse on here feels like a whole bunch of people who are just pressed to be pressed. So at the end of the day, do I agree with Hasan's take? No, not completely. It's also Hasan, so it's going to be taken to the absolute ends. Like, there maybe is some merit there when it comes to the mental exhaustion. And do I wish it was a different streamer? Yeah, because when Hasan's involved in this stuff, there's a lot of hate thrown the way, not just of Hasan, but, you know, streamers in general, that I do have a respect for a lot of these streamers. It takes a lot to be a successful streamer, but also, like, we're on the internet, guys. Like, when you're going to start comparing your job as a streamer, when you make millions of dollars, I'm talking about Hasan, in any form or facet, you have to expect that people who work real jobs are going to have comments to say. At the end of all of this, maybe some of you can agree, maybe you disagree. I will read the comments down below. I don't mind which way you guys fall. If you hate someone or hate me, it doesn't really matter. I am curious what you think about this. Is streaming harder than a real job? I don't know. I don't know what job you work. You could be very well working a job that is easier or harder than streaming. There are tons of jobs out there that are harder than streaming. I think the point is that some streamers are just trying to point out that it can be mentally exhausting to stream, and not every streamer is making millions and millions of dollars. I just don't understand why we're trying to compare one job, streaming, to every other job out there. It's like there's no win here. I thought the discourse was a bit exaggerated, and maybe we were all a bit bored this past weekend. It did lead to a lot of people speaking up, and there were some crazy takes out there, but what do you guys think? Till next time, hope you all take care. Really quick, shouts to our sponsors, that being Thunderpick and Buffed. Code Lucky down below. They allowed us to go to Brazil this past week to cover the best esports event I've ever been to my entire life. We're going to be working on a lot of the footage and videos on this channel. If you guys want to support and subscribe and leave comments down below, we greatly appreciate that. We cover esports, gaming, and streaming news here on this channel. I wanted to touch on this topic, but just a quick thank you to all of you guys who've been watching. This past week was incredible, and I can't wait to get those videos out there for you guys and some other esports and gaming news as well. Till next time, take care, okay? Drink some water, coffee, some Buffed, and we'll see you back here soon. Okay, bye.